Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with our new content. The Deep Dive with Mike and Mandy starts now.
You're on a flight, everything seems normal, routine, and then boom, disaster. It's a chilling thought. But that's the reality of what happened at Reagan National Airport back on January 29th.
Yeah, it's a passenger jet collides with an Army Black Hawk helicopter, 67 lives lost. Just a horrible tragedy.
It is. And we're going to do a deep dive into what we know so far about those final moments leading up to the crash.
Right. And we're looking at the NTSB investigation here, their initial findings, and kind of trying to unpack what we've learned from their press briefings and updates.
Yeah. And you might be surprised by some of the details that have emerged. So to set the scene, it's 8:47 p.m. We're in the busy airspace around Reagan National. And there are, get this, 5 people in the air traffic control tower.
5. Wow.
It's a number to keep in mind as we go through this. Now, the NTSB, they're like the detectives of the transportation world.
Right.
They go in, they try to piece together what happened, why it happened.
Exactly. Trying to figure out, what went wrong.
And we need to stress, of course, that this investigation is ongoing. What we have now is just a snapshot, an early look at their initial findings. But even in this early stage, there's some pretty compelling information coming out.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Especially from these communication transcripts they've released.
Oh, yeah, the transcripts are fascinating.
They give us this almost like a play-by-play of what was happening in the tower and between the tower and these aircraft.
Right, you can hear air traffic control, for example. They're instructing the Black Hawk to pass behind the passenger jet. But just a few seconds later, there's this verbal reaction from the plane's crew.
That verbal reaction, it really makes you think, what are they seeing at that point? Are they just realizing what's about to happen? Is there a sense of urgency in their voices? And then right after that, we see the plane's pitch increases just before the impact.
And that's a big deal, that pitch change. We're talking about the angle of the aircraft's nose, right, relative to the horizon. It's not just a minor adjustment.
Right. And that could be a sign of, I don't know, like a last-ditch effort and evasive maneuver by the pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it. A sudden pitch change, it can have huge consequences in terms of aerodynamics. You could stall the aircraft, disrupt the airflow over the wings, lose lift.
Right.
Or maybe the pilot was trying to climb rapidly, get above the helicopter's path. It's all speculation at this point, but these are the kinds of questions the NTSB is going to be looking into.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got the verbal reaction, we've got the pitch change all happening very rapidly. And remember, we've got 5 people in the tower during all of this. And we know that this included an operations supervisor, so that's like your senior controller, your experienced captain.
Right, the one who's seen it all.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we also know there was somebody in training in the tower at that time.
Interesting.
So that obviously raises the question of staffing levels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, the NTSB, they haven't actually commented on whether the staffing that night was typical or not for that time and day.
They're being very careful.
They are. And they're known for being meticulous and cautious.
Right. They want all the facts before they even hint at a possible cause, which is, the right way to do it.
But, and this is where it gets interesting, the Washington Post, they're reporting that a government source claims the staffing that night was, quote, not normal.
Oh, so we've got a little conflict here.
We do. Now, why would the NTSB be hesitant to say anything definitive about staffing levels at this point?
Well, I think it's about not jumping to conclusions, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to point fingers until you've looked at every possible angle.
Of course.
You're going to be looking at everything. Radar data, voice recordings, weather conditions, even the layout of the airspace around Reagan National.
Right.
Because there could be other factors that played a role here. Maybe communication procedures weren't followed, or there's something specific about that airspace that makes it particularly challenging. It's too early to say.
It is early. But this whole thing, it really highlights how complex air travel is. There's so many different systems, so many human decisions that have to go right.
It's absolutely. It's like a delicate dance.
To keep everything safe. And this accident, like so many others before it, forces us to take a hard look at those systems, ask those tough questions.
It does, and it makes you think about, okay, what can we learn from this to prevent something like this from happening again? Do we need to revamp air traffic control protocols? Should we be looking at pilot training, how to deal with unexpected situations in busy airspace? What about the design of the airspace itself?
Right. Are there things we could do to improve that, make it safer?
Exactly.
I think this is a good reminder for all of us, whether you're an aviation buff or just someone who flies a couple times a year, that air travel is statistically safe, but it relies on a lot of things going right.
It does. A lot of things have to go right. technology, human expertise, procedures, you name it.
And all of that has to work together seamlessly.
And it usually does, but this accident shows us what can happen when even a small thing goes wrong.
Exactly. And we're going to keep following this NTSB investigation as it unfolds, keep you updated on any new developments. Okay, so today we're diving into a really tragic event, a plane crash that happened in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And, we see these headlines all the time, but we're going to try to go a little bit deeper into the details and really focus on the human element to this story.
Wow.
So we're working from a news article that details this incident, and it happened on a Friday night.
Okay.
And a medical transport plane took off from the Northeast Philadelphia airport.
Okay.
And crashed shortly after takeoff.
Oh, wow.
It crashed into a residential area.
No.
Which really kind of amplifies the tragedy and started some fires.
Yeah, it's always so unsettling to hear about these kinds of events, and the fact that it crashed into a residential area just really adds another layer of tragedy to the whole situation.
Yeah, and what's really kind of strange about this, or what really stuck with me from the article, is that the plane actually managed to climb to 16,000 feet before something went wrong.
Yeah, that's a significant altitude you would think that they'd be.
Right.
At a point where, things are relatively stable.
Exactly. Yeah, you think they're kind of in the clear at that point.
Right, exactly. And then to have this rapid descent, it really makes you wonder what could have possibly happened in those moments.
Yeah, it's a mystery for sure.
Yeah.
So looking into, who was actually on board the plane and who we lost in this tragedy, there were 6 individuals on board the plane. They were all Mexican nationals.
Okay.
And tragically, they all lost their lives.
Oh.
There was a young girl who was being transported for medical treatment.
Oh, wow.
Her name was Valentina Guzman Murillo.
Valentina Guzman Murillo.
And she was with her mother, Lizeth Murillo Ozuna.
Oh, so sad.
And it's just heartbreaking to think about that, this mother was trying to get her daughter the treatment that she needed, and this is what happened. It's just awful.
It really puts the whole incident into perspective, It's not just a plane crash, it's people's lives,
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have to remember the crew, too.
Of course.
Captain Alan Montoya Perales was the pilot. Jose Juarez was the co-pilot.
Okay.
And then there was a doctor on board who was there to provide medical care.
Right.
Dr. Raul Meza. And then lastly, Rodrigo Lopez Padilla, who was the paramedic.
So a whole medical team, it sounds like.
Yeah, a whole team. And it's a lot of loss, to process.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's important to remember that each of those names represents a life, a story. They had families, friends, communities that are all going to be impacted by this.
Absolutely. And there's another layer to this tragedy.
Okay.
In addition to the 6 people on board the plane, there was also a fatality of someone who was in a car.
Oh, wow.
Near the crash site.
Gosh.
Just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that the impact of these events goes far beyond those immediately involved.
Yeah, exactly. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about the actual aircraft itself.
Okay.
It was identified as a Learjet 55.
Learjet 55, okay.
Which was operated by Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. It's a company that's based in Mexico.
Interesting.
And I was kind of curious, what do you know about Learjet 55s?
Well, Learjet 55s are known for their speed.
Okay.
And they have a pretty good range, so that makes them appealing for medical transport.
Makes sense.
You want to get patients where they need to go quickly.
Right, of course.
But they have also been involved in a fair number of incidents.
Oh, really?
Compared to other business jets. So it does raise some questions about, whether they are the ideal choice for these kinds of operations.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's this constant sort of tension between, getting people where they need to go quickly,
right? Yeah.
But also making sure that everybody's safe on board.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for sure. And I think this tragedy really highlights that, how do we as a society balance this need for speed and medical transport with the absolute necessity of upholding the highest safety standards?
Yeah, it's a really tough question.
It is.
So to kind of sum up everything we've talked about today, we've got this tragic timeline. We've got the loss of these 7 lives. We've got this aircraft that, may or may not be ideal for this kind of operation. And we're left with this big question, what happened?
Yeah.
What went wrong?
And I think that's what the investigators are going to be looking into right now, trying to understand the cause of this crash. not only to bring some closure to the families involved, but also to prevent something like this from happening again.
You know, it makes me think about how important all these aviation safety regulations are.
Absolutely.
And how we need to be constantly working to improve those.
Yeah, vigilance is key.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been a very sobering conversation.
It is a heavy talk.
But very important. And, you know, our thoughts go out to the victim's family and to everyone who was affected by this tragedy.
It's a reminder to cherish every moment and appreciate the people in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
All right, folks. Ready to dive in? We're about to get you prepped for the Super Bowl, Amarillo style.
Game on.
Yeah, you guys sent in this article from Kmart KCIT about restaurants here getting ready. And, well, let's just say it's going to be a busy one.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, busy weekend. So we're going to deep dive into this and give you the insider info to survive Super Bowl Sunday in Amarillo.
Insider info.
You know, when you think Super Bowl, you think the game, the commercials.
Halftime show?
Halftime show, right. But this article shines a light on something else. The food.
Absolutely, yeah. The Super Bowl is like this cultural phenomenon, right? And it's like everyone collectively decides, tonight we feast.
Yes, it's almost ritualistic, you know. Wings, nachos, dips,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards, yeah. And the thing is, it's not just about enjoying the game. It's like this shared experience. Everyone wants the same thing at the same time.
Exactly. And this article really highlights that. They talk about Texas Firehouse and Bubba's 33, these local Amarillo spots. They're talking about increased truck orders, stocking up on all the goods, liquor, beer. You really get a sense of the sheer volume.
Oh, yeah. It's like, you know, Black Friday, but for restaurants.
Black Friday for restaurants. I like that. That's a good way to put it.
Right. And there's a sort of psychological component to this, too, right? Like, knowing that everyone's ordering wings, suddenly you want wings?
Totally. You're like, wait a minute, I need wings too.
Yeah, right. So this scarcity mentality kicks in and it just drives the demand even higher.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, okay, let's put ourselves in the listener's shoes here. Let's say they're all hyped for the game. They got their jerseys on.
Snacks are ready.
Snacks are ready. Maybe they've got their lucky socks on.
They're lucky socks.
Right.
Gotta have them.
And they decide, hey, we're going to head out to local Amarillo restaurant. What's the game plan? What can they do to make sure they're not stuck waiting for an eternity for their food?
Yeah. That's the key question. You don't want to miss that kickoff, right? Huh. Well, first things first.
Right.
Calling ahead is always a good idea. But honestly, on Super Bowl Sunday, some places are just too slammed.
Totally.
Reservations might be out the window.
Yeah, it's just mayhem. Organized mayhem.
Yeah, controlled chaos. But this article really hits on the importance of planning ahead, like really planning ahead.
Yeah, they're basically saying if you're dining in, get there early, like really early. And if you're going the takeout route, place those orders in advance, like way in advance.
Exactly. And it's not just about the flood of orders, right? There are logistical bottlenecks to consider. Think about it. How many fryers does a restaurant have?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. They can have all the chicken wings in the world, but if they can only cook so many per hour.
Well, and you know the staff, they can only move so fast. There are only so many cooks in the kitchen, so many servers on the floor. It's a lot to manage.
It's a lot. There are a lot of moving pieces.
Oh, yeah. I remember one year, I waited an hour for wings. By the time they got to me, the game was practically over. It was heartbreaking.
Oh, that's tragic. The ultimate fumble.
It was. So the takeaway here, whether you're team dine-in, team takeout.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, right? That pre-game planning, it's crucial. It's your game-winning strategy for a smooth Super Bowl Sunday experience.
Game-winning strategy. Love it.
But okay, now we've talked a lot about restaurants, right? That's where this article focuses. But this is the Super Bowl. It's a citywide event. What about all those other businesses in Amarillo? What about, like, grocery stores?
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Think about it. Grocery stores are going to be packed.
Packed with people grabbing their chips and dips, their drinks.
Right, all the essentials. And then what about party supply stores? They must be going crazy. Streamers, balloons.
Balloons, decorations, team colors, face paint. The works?
The whole shebang. And let's not forget the unsung heroes, the delivery drivers.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Right. The ride-sharing services,
Wow.
all the people working overtime to keep up with this Super Bowl rush.
That's so true. It's like this hidden network of people making sure everyone's Super Bowl Sunday runs smoothly. It really makes you think about the ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Of something like the Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this local news piece gives us a window into how a single event can have this huge impact.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Right.
And it's way beyond just the game itself.
Way beyond. It's like this cultural and economic phenomenon.
Exactly.
A lot to think about. And, a good reminder to plan ahead, whether it's food, transport, or whatever you need to do. So, until next time, may your Super Bowl Sunday be full of good food.
Good friends.
Good friends.
And hopefully a winning team.
Hopefully a winning team. Okay, so have you heard about butcher bots? I mean, they're kind of everywhere right now, all over the news, and they're changing how we get our meat. It's pretty wild. So today we're going to take a deep dive into what butcher bots are all about, how they work, why they're becoming so popular, and what this all means for the future of meat.
It's a really interesting topic and a fast-moving area. Just a few years ago, this was the stuff of science fiction.
Totally.
Now, these robots are actually out there in meat packing plants all around the world.
Yeah, so maybe we should start by explaining to folks what exactly are butcher bots?
Sure. So butcher bots are, they're robots designed to do the jobs that traditionally were done by human butchers.
Okay.
So that means things like, cutting and deboning meat, portioning it, really anything you can think of in terms of processing meat.
So they're really taking over the really tough jobs.
That's right. And not only are they taking over these jobs, but they're doing them with a level of precision and efficiency. Right.
That really we've never seen before.
Right. So is this all about replacing people and saving money, or are there other reasons driving their popularity?
Well, it's certainly true that economics is a big factor. I mean, the meat industry has been struggling with a labor shortage for a while now.
Yeah, I've heard that.
These jobs are often difficult, they're dangerous, and the pay often isn't that great, so it's hard to find workers. But it's not just about the money, Butcher bots also bring a level of consistency and hygiene to meat processing.
Oh, interesting.
That's really hard to achieve with human workers. So from a food safety perspective, that's a big plus.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so these bots are clearly very precise, but how do they actually see what they're doing? Like, meat isn't exactly a uniform object, right? It's not like they're just working on a conveyor belt of identical widgets.
You're exactly right. Every cut of meat is different. But that's where the really cool technology comes in. Computer vision and machine learning. These robots use cameras and sensors to create incredibly detailed 3D images of the carcass.
Okay. And then sophisticated algorithms analyze these images, basically identifying all the different parts of the animal, the bones, the fat, the different muscle groups, and then they guide the robotic arms and cutting tools to make incredibly precise cuts.
Wow. So they're not just programmed to always cut in the same spot. They can adapt to each individual animal.
That's exactly right. That's what makes this technology so groundbreaking. I mean, some of these systems can even adjust their cutting techniques based on what the end product is supposed to be.
Really?
So if it's a steak, they'll cut it one way. If it's a roast, they'll cut it another way. And that not only minimizes waste, but it also means you get a much more consistent product in the end.
That's amazing. So we've talked about what butcher bots are and why they're becoming so popular. But let's get into the bigger picture now. What are the pros and cons here?
Right. Well, the potential benefits are pretty clear. Increased efficiency, reduced labor costs, improved worker safety, and a much higher level of hygiene in the processing plants. I mean, those are all huge pluses for producers. But of course, there are downsides too.
Yeah, like what happens to all the human butchers? I mean, are we talking about widespread job losses?
Job displacement is definitely a real concern. And, while it's true that these robots might be taking over some of the more dangerous and repetitive tasks, there's no denying that widespread adoption of this technology could lead to job losses.
Right.
And, these jobs are often really important to these rural communities where a lot of these plants are located.
Yeah, it's a tough trade-off to consider. Potentially cheaper, more efficiently produced meat, but at what cost? Are there any other downsides we should be thinking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, the cost of these systems themselves is another factor. I mean, the initial investment for this technology can be pretty high. And so that could create a barrier for smaller producers.
Right, so bigger companies could squeeze out the little guys.
Exactly. And that could lead to even more consolidation in the meat industry.
Okay, so looking ahead then, what's the future hold for butcher bots? I mean, are we going to see fully automated meat processing plants, like robots doing everything from start to finish?
It's certainly possible. As the technology keeps evolving, we can expect to see these systems get even more sophisticated and capable. So yeah, maybe one day the whole process, from the moment the animal arrives at the plant to the packaging of the final product, could be done by robots.
Wow, that's a pretty wild thought. A completely robotic butcher shop.
Right.
But do you think it's more likely that we'll see a future where humans and robots work together? Kind of each doing what they're best at.
Yeah, I think a hybrid model is probably more realistic, at least in the near future.
Okay.
Humans could oversee the process and handle the tasks that require more creativity or adaptability, while the robots could handle the heavy lifting and the more repetitive tasks.
Makes sense. And I imagine this isn't just limited to meat packing plants, right? I mean, are we going to see robot fruit pickers, robot bakers, a whole robot kitchen staff?
Well, we're already seeing similar technologies being developed in other areas of food production. So yeah, it's not crazy to think that automation could transform the entire food industry.
I mean, that's both exciting and a little bit scary, right? Like, think about what your grocery store could look like in a few years.
Right. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Butcher bots, whether you think they're a good thing or a bad thing, they're changing the way we produce food.
Absolutely. And as consumers, it's important that we stay informed and engaged in this conversation.
Totally agree. We need to ask the tough questions about, what this means for workers, for food prices, for the sustainability of our food system. I mean, the choices we make today are going to have a huge impact on the future of food.
Absolutely. So the next time you're at the grocery store, looking at that package of meat, take a moment to think about how it got there. Maybe a butcher bot was involved, maybe not. But the fact that we're even having this conversation shows just how fast technology is changing the world around us.
Yeah, and even something as basic as what we eat.
Exactly. And that's something to think about. All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty amazing.
I know, right?
OpenAI's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yep, that AI chatbot that's got the whole world buzzing.
Yeah.
And we're going to be focusing on all the latest developments.
It's getting even smarter.
Exactly. Way smarter. And to guide us on this journey, we've got a fantastic article, Pasted Text.
It's an interesting read.
Seriously, packed with all sorts of juicy details. Now, before we get lost in the technical jargon, I want to assure you that this deep dive is for everyone.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a tech whiz or just curious about how AI is shaping our world, this is relevant stuff. Remember those times you wished you had a super smart assistant to help you whip up a brilliant email?
Oh, yeah.
Or research a topic that just had you stumped? Or even brainstorm some creative ideas for that next big project?
ChatGPT is getting closer to making all that happen.
It really is. So let's jump right in. What's got you most excited about these latest developments?
Well, for me, it's how ChatGPT is evolving beyond just basic chit-chat. It's moving into a whole new realm of problem-solving and multi-step reasoning.
So it's not just about generating witty responses or writing a poem anymore. It can actually tackle complex problems.
You got it. Pasted Text highlights its ability to handle tasks that require planning and executing multiple steps. Imagine you ask it to plan a trip, considering your budget, interests, and available time.
Okay, that sounds helpful.
ChatGPT could research destinations, find flights and accommodation within your budget, suggest activities based on your interests, even factor in travel time between locations.
Whoa, hold on. That's a lot.
I know, right?
That's some serious organizational skills. I mean, planning a trip can be a total nightmare. Having an AI assist with that.
It's a game changer.
Huge game changer, for sure. But with all this power, with this level of sophistication, I can't help but think about the safety aspect.
Right, of course.
Are there any risks involved?
Yeah.
How is OpenAI making sure this incredibly powerful AI stays within ethical boundaries?
Well, they're definitely aware of the ethical concerns. OpenAI's implemented several safety features, including this cool thing called in-context learning.
In-context learning?
Yeah. Instead of being trained on a massive data set all at once, ChatGPT learns and adapts as it interacts with users.
Ah, so it's like a continuous learning process.
Precisely. More controlled, more refined, makes it less likely to generate harmful or biased content.
That's reassuring, definitely. But is that in-context learning? Is it really enough to guarantee ethical use? I mean, are there any potential downsides we should be aware of?
There's always potential downsides, right? I guess one concern could be bias creeping in through user interactions.
So if enough people interact with it in a biased way, it can pick up on those biases.
Exactly. OpenAI knows about this challenge and they're working on ways to mitigate it, but it's definitely an ongoing thing, you know?
Right.
Research and development always evolving.
It's like walking a tightrope, isn't it? Pushing the boundaries of AI while making sure it's used responsibly and ethically. Tricky balance. But hey, let's move on to something a bit more fun. Pasted Text also mentioned this cool new feature customization. What's that all about?
Customization. It means developers can fine-tune ChatGPT for specific industries or use cases. Imagine a healthcare provider, right?
Right.
They could tailor ChatGPT to give medical information, answer patient questions, all based on their specific needs.
So a custom-made AI for every industry. That's a pretty wild concept.
Yeah.
How accessible is this customization feature? Is it just for big tech companies with tons of resources?
Not at all. OpenAI wants to make this accessible to everyone. They're working on APIs, user-friendly tools that'll empower developers of all levels to customize ChatGPT.
So even smaller businesses, even individual developers, could potentially harness this power.
That's the goal.
That's pretty incredible. It really opens up a whole world of possibilities for innovation.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that really caught my eye in Pasted Text.
What's that?
They emphasize the importance of user feedback. I mean, how does OpenAI actually use that feedback to make ChatGPT better?
They've got a whole team dedicated to analyzing that feedback. They look for patterns, areas for improvement.
So they're actually listening to what users are saying.
Oh, yeah.
All
It's a
right.
crucial feedback loop, refining responses, ensuring accuracy, tackling those potential biases.
So users actually have a say in shaping the future of ChatGPT.
And absolutely. It's a collaborative effort, which I think is really cool.
It's pretty cool. So, final question, what's next? What's on the horizon for ChatGPT? Pasted Text hinted at some exciting possibilities.
Oh, they're always pushing the boundaries. Right now, they're focusing on improving how ChatGPT understands nuanced human language. Idioms, sarcasm, cultural references, all that good stuff.
So it's going to get even better at understanding us,
Yeah.
even the subtle stuff.
Exactly. And they're also working on getting it to generate different creative text formats like poetry, scripts, musical pieces, you name it.
Wow, the potential is mind-blowing. As ChatGPT continues to evolve, it's going to have a huge impact on all aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Now, for all of you listening out there, I have a question for you.
Ooh, a good one.
I hope so. How do you see ChatGPT shaping your future? Whether it's in your personal life or your work, how could this evolving AI become a part of your world? Something to think about as we navigate this incredible age of artificial intelligence.
I like it.
Thanks.
It is exciting.
It is.
It really is.
I think that's about all the time we have for today, but we'll be back again soon with another deep dive.
We'll see you then.
Until next time. All right. Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we are diving headfirst into all the hype surrounding Janus Pro.
Yes.
This new AI that seems to be, well, everywhere I look online.
Yeah.
Articles, research papers, even I have to admit,
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive stuff. You ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Janus Pro is definitely causing a stir, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a serious leap forward in AI tech, especially with how it handles, well, pretty much any kind of data you throw at it, not just text like we're used to.
That's what really grabbed my attention to this multimodal thing, right?
Right.
Most AIs I've seen, it's like they're just glorified spell checkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Janus Pro, images, audio, video, it's almost like it can actually see and hear.
It really is. It's like Janus Pro has senses. It can take in information the way WE do. And the crazy part is how it combines all those different data types.
Okay. Yeah. Give me an example. Help me wrap my head around that.
Sure. Imagine a doctor, right? Using Janus Pro, they could analyze a patient's medical records, scan through x-rays, and even listen to their voice recordings. All at once, looking for maybe early signs of some condition.
I'm already seeing how much more information this AI is using, even compared to a doctor just looking at a chart.
Exactly. And that's just one example. Think about how much information we're bombarded with every single day.
Oh, tell me about it.
Articles, videos, podcasts, it's too much for any one person to really process. But Janus Pro, it could help us actually make sense of it all.
Like having a personal assistant who cuts through all the noise and finds what's actually important.
Precisely. And it doesn't just find that information, it understands it in context. And that actually leads us to another big feature.
Okay.
Janus Pro's long-term memory, its ability to remember entire conversations, even stuff from way earlier.
This is what I was really curious about.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, most AIs have the memory of a goldfish.
It's true.
You tell them something, 2 sentences later, poof, it's gone. But Janus Pro is different.
It's a huge difference maker. This is what sets Janus Pro apart. Think about customer service, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine, no more repeating your issue every time you get transferred to a new person.
Oh man, that would save so much frustration.
Right. Janus Pro would remember your entire history with the company, making the whole experience so much smoother and more personalized.
I can see how that would be revolutionary, not just for customer service, but for any kind of support situation. So much wasted time and energy just try to get everyone on the same page.
Exactly. And that ability to understand context is what we need for AI to be truly effective. We're not just talking about simple questions and answers anymore. This is getting close to a real human-like conversation.
Okay, so we've got an AI that can take in all kinds of information, remembers everything, anything else. There's this whole adaptability thing that keeps coming up in the research. What's that about?
Ah, yes. Adaptability is another one of the really key things with Janus Pro. It's not just a static program. It's constantly learning, evolving, and adapting to new information.
I see. So in fields like finance or healthcare, where everything changes so fast.
That's where it really shines. Imagine a financial analyst using Janus Pro to track market trends. New data comes in, boom, the AI adjusts its predictions and strategies right there on the spot.
It's not just processing all that info, it's making sense of it as it's changing. That's huge GE in today's world.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. New research is always coming out. The market's shifting. Trends change all the time. An AI that can keep up with all of that.
Yeah.
Essential for making good decisions.
One thing that jumped out at me when I was reading about this was DeepSeek's focus on making Janus Pro energy efficient.
Oh, yeah.
With all this power, I have to admit, I was expecting it to be a bit of an energy hog.
It's a valid concern. We've all seen how much power some of these AI systems can use, but DeepSeek seems to have made sustainability a priority.
Okay, good.
They've designed Janus Pro from the ground up to be energy efficient.
So what's the benefit of that? I mean, besides being good for the planet, obviously.
Well, for one, it means lower operating costs. So this really powerful technology becomes more accessible to more people.
That makes sense.
And of course, it aligns with the whole global push towards sustainable tech, which is great to see. DeepSeek is thinking about the big picture.
It's reassuring to see a company that's taking those ethical and environmental implications seriously. Speaking of ethics, it seems like DeepSeek has been pretty careful about building in safeguards to Janus Pro, right?
Absolutely. They've included features like bias detection to make sure things are fair, transparency in how decisions are made, and protocols for user consent to protect everyone's privacy.
So we've got this AI that can handle all sorts of data, remembers everything, adapts to new info, it's energy efficient, and it's built with ethical considerations in mind.
It's impressive, right?
It's a lot to take in. I'm curious now about the real-world applications of all this. Where are we actually seeing Janus Pro making a difference right now?
Well, one of the biggest areas is healthcare. Imagine, a world where Janus Pro can analyze a patient's entire medical history.
Okay.
Cross-reference it with all the latest research, and even flag potential risks that a human doctor might miss.
That sounds like something straight out of science fiction. I mean, are we talking about AI doctors replacing human physicians?
Oh, not replacing, not yet anyway.
Okay.
But definitely helping them, augmenting their abilities.
Okay.
Think of it like Janus Pro is this incredibly powerful tool that helps doctors make diagnoses faster, more accurately, and then develop better, more personalized treatment plans.
So it's not about replacing human expertise, it's about using AI to make that expertise even better.
Exactly. It's like having, like a super smart medical consultant working with every single doctor.
Wow. And it's not just about, treating people who are already sick.
Yeah, right.
I read that Janus Pro could even help with things like predicting outbreaks or developing public health strategies.
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze all sorts of health data on a massive scale, identify trends, things that humans might miss.
That's incredible. What about education? I remember seeing something about how Janus Pro could totally revolutionize the way we learn. How would that work?
Well, imagine a totally personalized learning experience.
Yeah.
Tailored to your strengths, your weaknesses, even your specific learning style.
So no more one-size-fits-all classroom.
That's the idea. Janus Pro can track your progress, see where you're struggling, and then suggest resources and activities designed just for you.
That sounds way more engaging than the way most of us learned back in the day. And probably a lot more effective, too.
Exactly. And it could help solve some of the big problems we're facing in education today, like teacher shortages, overcrowded classrooms, the need for more personalized attention.
Okay, so we've talked about healthcare, education. What about the business world? How is Janus Pro shaking things up there?
Oh, businesses are drowning in data these days, right?
Yeah.
Sales figures, customer demographics, market trends, it's overwhelming. But Janus Pro can help them make sense of it all, identify patterns, make smarter decisions.
So instead of relying on gut feeling or intuition, businesses can use Janus Pro to make data-driven decisions.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just number crunching. Think about automating tasks, improving efficiency, even things like personalizing the customer experience.
Okay, yeah.
Like imagine a retail website that uses Janus Pro to recommend products based on what you've bought before or what you've been looking at online.
Now that is convenient.
Right.
I can't believe we haven't even touched on the creative side of things yet. I hear Janus Pro is making quite a splash in the art world, too. What's going on there?
This is where things get really interesting. We're actually seeing artists, musicians, writers using Janus Pro as a tool for their creative process.
Really?
Yeah. Imagine a musician using Janus Pro to help compose a symphony, or a writer using it to brainstorm ideas or get over writer's block.
The idea of an AI composing music or writing a novel, that's pretty mind-blowing. Where does the line between human creativity and AI even begin?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's something philosophers and artists are going to be debating for years to come.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway is that AI isn't about replacing human creativity. It's about expanding it.
So it's more of a partnership than a competition.
Exactly. It's about humans and AI working together to create something totally new and innovative. And that's probably going to lead to new forms of art and expression that we can't even imagine yet.
It's incredible to think about. So with all these amazing things Janus Pro can already do, what does DeepSeek have planned for the future? They can't just stop here, can they?
Oh, they're definitely not stopping. In fact, they see Janus Pro as just the starting point. They're constantly working to make it better, more accessible, and find new ways to use it.
So what's their vision? Where do they see this technology going?
Well, one of their big goals is to make Janus Pro available to everyone.
Everyone.
Not just big corporations and research labs, but small businesses and even individuals.
Wow.
They believe that making this technology accessible to everyone will lead to a whole new wave of innovation and creativity.
That's a pretty bold vision. Imagine anyone with a laptop and an internet connection could harness the power of Janus Pro. What kind of impact could that have?
It's pretty much limitless, right?
Yeah.
Think about like a small business owner using Janus Pro to manage inventory or, analyze sales data, even personalize their whole marketing strategy. Or students, right? They could have access to AI tutors and learning tools that are designed just for them.
It really is like giving everyone superpowers.
It is.
This ability to use information, process it in ways that we never could before.
And it's not just processing information, it's solving problems, being more creative. Imagine anyone with a good idea can use Janus Pro to make it happen.
A new product, a work of art, even, solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. It is exciting. But I have to admit, a little part of me is kind of nervous too. All this change happening so fast, it's got to raise some questions too, right?
Of course. I mean, any new technology, especially one this transformative, is going to come with challenges. We have to think about the ethical side of things.
Right.
How AI is going to affect jobs, the workforce, and making sure that it's used responsibly for everyone's benefit.
It's not just about, being excited about the potential. We have to be aware of the risks too. Have those tough conversations about how we manage all of this.
Absolutely. And those conversations need to include everyone, not just the tech people, but educators, artists, business leaders, everyday people. The future of AI isn't going to be decided by a small group. We all need to be part of shaping it.
You've definitely given us a lot to think about today. Wrapping up this deep dive into Janus Pro, I'm feeling a mix of, excitement, maybe a little apprehension, but mostly just. I'm curious, what's the thing that stands out most to you about all of this?
I think for me, it's the potential for collaboration. Humans and AI working together. I think we're just starting to understand what's possible when we combine our strengths.
In science, art, business, even just everyday life. That's a great point, and I think that's the perfect place to leave it for today. We've explored what Janus Pro can do, the benefits, the challenges, the big questions it raises about the future of AI and its role in our world.
If you're interested in learning more, keep digging, keep those conversations going. This is a future that we're all creating, whether we realize it or not.
Keep those brains buzzing, deep divers. We'll catch you on the next one. Get ready, folks, because we're about to dive into some seriously futuristic tech today.
We are indeed.
You guys sent in a ton of articles about it, so we know you're already super curious about this one.
Yeah, lots of buzz around this one for sure.
Stretchable screens.
Stretchable screens, that's right.
From Samsung.
Straight out of Samsung. Yeah.
So basically imagine this, right? Your phone screen.
Okay.
You're looking at a map on your phone.
Yep.
And it's just not quite big enough.
You can't quite see what you need to see.
Exactly. You need to see like around the corner or something.
Right.
And what if you just
pull it?
Yeah, just pull the corner of your screen.
Stretch that screen out.
And make it bigger.
Bigger. Exactly.
So you can see more of the map.
Exactly. And then when you're done, you just let go and it
shrinks right back.
Shrinks right back down to your pocket-sized phone.
So is this like those bendy phones we've seen already, or?
It's similar, but it's really a whole other level.
Okay, so tell me more.
So those bendy phones, those are using flexible screens. This is different. This is about screens that can actually change size.
Wait, so not just bending?
Not just bending, but expanding and contracting.
Wow.
Like almost like a rubber band.
Okay, hold on. So how does a screen even do that?
Well, it all comes down to the materials they're using.
Oh.
So you know those OLED screens we all love?
Yeah, they have those beautiful colors.
Those gorgeous colors. Well, they're using similar technology, but they're putting those OLED pixels on a special kind of material.
What kind of material?
It's called an elastic substrate.
Elastic substrate.
Yeah, it's basically a fancy way of saying it's like a super thin sheet of rubber.
So the screen is like rubbery.
In a way, yeah, it's flexible and stretchable.
Okay, so that explains how it stretches, but what about the image?
Right, because if you're stretching a regular screen, the picture would get all distorted.
Yeah, it would just break, wouldn't it?
Exactly, but this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They're using something called micro LEDs.
Micro LEDs.
Yeah, tiny light bulbs, basically.
Millions of them.
Oh, millions and millions of them. And each one makes up a single pixel.
Wow.
But the cool thing is these micro LEDs can handle the stretching and bending.
So the picture stays clear.
Crystal clear, and the colors stay vibrant.
And I'm guessing there's some fancy software involved too, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are sensors that detect how the screen is being stretched, and then the software adjusts the content in real time.
So it always fits perfectly no matter the shape.
You got it.
That's incredible.
It really is mind-blowing stuff.
So is this like something we'll actually be able to buy soon, or is this like way off in the future?
Well, it's still in development,
okay,
but Samsung has shown off some working prototypes.
So it's not just like a crazy idea.
Oh, no, it's definitely in the works.
So what could we actually use this for besides like making our phones bigger?
Well, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Like what?
Well, let's start with healthcare.
Okay.
Imagine premature babies in the NICU.
Those tiny little babies.
Yeah, they're hooked up to all sorts of wires and sensors. It can be really uncomfortable for them.
And all those wires.
Yeah, it's a mess, but with stretchable sensors.
Okay.
You could have a thin, flexible sensor array that conforms to the baby's skin.
So no more bulky wires.
Exactly. It would be so much more comfortable for those fragile babies.
That's amazing.
And it's not just about comfort. You could get continuous monitoring of vital signs without having to poke and prod them all the time.
That would be a game changer.
It really would, and that's just one example.
Okay, so what else?
Well, think about wound care.
Okay.
Imagine a bandage with a built-in stretchable screen.
A screen on a bandage?
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but think about it.
Okay, I'm thinking.
It could display real-time data on how the wound is healing.
Wow.
Doctors could monitor it remotely.
So no more having to change the bandage all the time to check.
Exactly. It could be so much more efficient and better for the patient.
That's incredible. Okay, I'm sold on the medical applications, but I got to ask about the fun stuff.
Of course.
What about gaming?
Ah, yes. The gamer's dream.
Right, a screen that wraps around you.
Total immersion.
But wouldn't that be kind of disorienting?
That's a good question, and it's something researchers are looking into.
Because I could see that making people feel sick.
Yeah, motion sickness is a real concern.
Like being on a roller coaster.
Exactly, and there could be other cognitive impacts too.
Right, we don't want to fry our brains.
Definitely not. So it's important to figure out those safety aspects before this tech goes mainstream.
Okay, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
There are challenges, for sure.
Like what?
Well, durability is a big one.
You mean making sure these screens can actually withstand all that stretching and bending?
Exactly. It needs to last more than a couple of stretches.
Right, because nobody wants to buy a new phone every month.
And then there's the cost.
Yeah, I bet these things are going to be expensive at first.
Oh, yeah. Early adopters will definitely pay a premium.
And what about the software side of things?
Oh, that's a whole other challenge.
Right, because apps would have to be designed to work on a screen that's constantly changing shape and size.
Exactly. It's a whole new paradigm for developers.
So it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done before we're all walking around with stretchable screens in our pockets.
There is, but the progress is happening fast.
So we've talked about how stretchable screens could revolutionize healthcare and entertainment.
And we've only scratched the surface.
What else is there?
Well, think about clothing with dynamic displays.
Like clothes that change color.
Even more than that, imagine clothes that react to your environment or display information.
That's wild.
Or furniture that can morph and change function on demand.
Like a couch that turns into a dining table.
Exactly. The possibilities are truly mind-boggling.
It's a future I can't wait to see.
Me neither.
But here's something for you all to think about.
Okay.
As this technology becomes more and more integrated into our lives, how will it change our relationship with tech?
That's a great question.
And what ethical considerations should we be thinking about?
Lots to ponder there.
Food for thought, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into stretchable screens.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.